Hello, everybody. Aaron the Nintintrovert here, and welcome back to the Pictochat podcast, the only place where you can your one-stop shop for all things. Okay, I'll be honest, I don't really have a tagline for the podcast. Anyway, let's jump right into it. Today we're going to be talking about the future of the Super Smash Bros. Series. The most recent game to release in the series, of course, was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which came out back in December of 2018 for the Nintendo Switch. And it was the tagline for that game was "Everyone is here." They brought back every single character in Super Smash Bros. History, as well as 100 stages, most of which were returning, but a handful of new ones. They really refined the gameplay, added a bunch of cool options and features. Smash Ultimate really is the definitive Smash Brothers game. And so for a lot of people, that kind of begs the question, where do they go from here? The game was pretty massive in terms of content when it launched, and then it only got even bigger from there as the game received two waves of DLC through 2021, I believe. Late 2021 is when the DLC on the game wrapped up, when they added Sora from Kingdom Hearts as the final fighter. So it all just begs the question, like, what do they do now, especially with the Nintendo Switch 2 having just recently been unveiled, and the full blowout April Nintendo Direct is just a couple of weeks from now at the time of recording, probably even less than that by the time this video goes up. Could the announcement of a new Smash Brothers game be imminent? We don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Has Sakurai been working on it, or is he busy working on something else, say a remaster of Kid Icarus Uprising, for example? I wouldn't be disappointed with either of those. Smash Brothers is a franchise that it sells gangbusters, but, sales are probably not even the most important factor to consider when it comes to Smash Brothers games. They are very financially successful for Nintendo, but even going beyond that, they're just great marketing. Nothing spreads the word about other Nintendo franchises like Smash Brothers and third parties as well. So there's just a large incentive to get your character into Smash Brothers, whether you're a third party or whether you're Nintendo themselves, because there's so much hype, behind each reveal trailer. It really puts all eyes on whatever game that you're highlighting. Like, I never knew what Fatal Fury was before they added Terry Bogard. I had no idea about any of those fighting games, for instance. In fact, as a kid, my parents bought me Super Smash Bros. Melee, and then later Super Smash Bros. Brawl, because it had Mario on the box. I loved Mario as a kid. That was the only Nintendo franchise I really played. And then when I got a little bit older and I would see commercials for, Kirby, or see Zelda on the shelf at GameStop, I'd be like, hey, I know that character from Smash Brothers. I've seen them before. I've played as Mario and fought against them. I kind of want to check out this game that has them in it. So it's, without Smash Brothers, I don't know. Like, I like to think that I would have eventually gotten into, Zelda and all these other Nintendo franchises, Metroid, Star Fox, Kirby, but I really don't know. I might not have, because as a kid I do distinctly remember that them being in Smash Bros. That was a big draw for me to pick up those games, because it's like I already had a certain level of familiarity with them, and it made me curious to want to explore their franchises. That way, when I played as them in Smash Brothers, I had a frame of reference. And so, even though the game sells, Smash Ultimate sold, 30, 40 million copies on Switch? I don't even know. It's ridiculous. I really don't think the money is the number one most important reason that Nintendo needs to keep making these games. I really think it's the marketability. It indirectly generates all kinds of other revenue for them by making long-term fans of their other franchises, beyond Smash Brothers. So, Smash Brothers is arguably one of, if not Nintendo's most important franchises. I won't say, like, obviously Mario, like the arcade game Donkey Kong, and then the original Super Mario Brothers kind of saved the game industry back in the day and all that stuff. And I'm not discounting that, but at least in terms of like modern day relevance, Smash Brothers is pretty much, I would argue, as important as it gets. You know, maybe it doesn't sell quite on the same level as Mario Kart 8, but it doesn't matter. Mario Kart 8's popularity sells other copies of Mario Kart 8. Smash Brothers' popularity sells copies of all kinds of other franchises. Zelda, you know, Pokemon. You get the point. So I don't see them not making a new Smash Brothers game for the Nintendo Switch 2. The question is, what form is that going to take? So that's what we're going to talk about here today. This video is going to kind of be, I guess you could say, broken up into two segments where I'm going to give you my wish list, all of my wants, the characters that I would love to see get added to the Smash Brothers roster and all that fun stuff, versus my realistic expectations / predictions. So there might be some overlap, but but yeah. So we'll probably start off just going through my my wants, and then from there we'll jump over into what I realistically think is going to be in the next Smash Brothers game. Before we get started, this is both a want and a prediction. So I believe and I hope that the next Smash Brothers game is not a hard reset like some people want. So I know some people say like, oh, you know, how can you go any higher up than Smash Ultimate? They've raised the bar so high. They just need to do a hard reset, cut out the third parties, maybe make it like a 20 character roster, but completely revamp all the characters' move sets, because the argument is that characters like Mario and Donkey Kong have more or less had the same move set since the 90s, since the Nintendo 64 game, and people think that move set is archaic, and so they want to see those characters modernized. In Mario's moveset they could incorporate Cappy from Mario Odyssey, and Donkey Kong they could do a lot more. A lot of them will make the argument that this reboot should be in 3D, where it's no longer like a side-scrolling platform fighter, but that they should make it where you're moving along the Z-axis too. I guess a little bit closer to something like Tekken or something. I don't know. Personally, I really don't want that. In fact, I would hate that. To me, a big part of what makes Smash Brothers so great is that it is a celebration. It's a museum, a hall of fame of sorts, of all these different franchises throughout history. Starting, back in the day, it was more Nintendo oriented. But since Brawl kind of like, they dipped their toes in the water on introducing third-party characters, and it's just kind of skyrocketed from there. And I can understand why the Nintendo purists might say, well, they really should just focus on the first-party characters. We don't need, all these third-party characters in there. I get that to an extent, but I don't know. There is something special about seeing, all of these third-party characters, seeing Sonic and Mega Man, Ryu from Street Fighter, Pac-Man, my boy Pac-Man, I love him. I will take a bullet for that yellow circle. Fighting alongside Mario and Link, it's truly something special. So I really don't want Nintendo to lose sight of that. And who else would agree with me on that? The late Nintendo president Satoru Iwata. So right here I have my copy of Ask Iwata, which is this book that was released after Iwata's unfortunate passing in 2015. For those who don't know, Satoru Iwata was the former president of Nintendo. He was the president / CEO, and he served from I want to say 2002 up until again his passing in 2015. He was kind of the face of Nintendo Directs. He was super influential to the company as a brand and kind of their modern philosophy, their ethos, I guess you could say, how they operate their business. I know a lot of people, myself included, I cried when Mr. Iwata passed away, and it's like I'm not the only one. There was a lot of people who were genuinely mourning when Iwata passed, and like there was all this like fan art, all these like touching tributes. People dropped off little memorial items. I think at like the Nintendo New York store to commemorate Iwata's passing. Wrote like little cards and stuff. It was a big deal. It was a big loss to the gaming industry. But you don't ever really see that sort of thing over a CEO. Like, I mean, how many people were crying when, like, um, what's his name, the Apple founder guy. I got it. See, I don't even remember his name. So that just shows you how much of a legacy he left in terms of as a person, But like, think about like when Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg or somebody like that passes away. Like, how many people are genuinely going to be like mourning their death? Probably not a lot. But Iwata was different. He was special. He was a genuine gamer who had a passion for what he was, the products he was overseeing. He was a visionary, and above everything, he was just a really nice, wholesome individual. He was basically the Japanese equivalent of Mr. Rogers, or Bob Ross or somebody, Steve Irwin. People talk about that trifecta of wholesome, nice personalities. I think Iwata deserves to be put there as a fourth. If you watched him in Nintendo Direct presentations, just what wholesome vibes he gave off, and just what a joy and a comfort it was to watch him during those presentations. But anyway, I've gone on a whole tangent about Mr. Iwata. I could probably do a whole podcast, in memorandum of him. But I did want to read an excerpt from this Ask Iwata book here, where it's discussing the Smash Brothers series. So let me read this paragraph here. As new titles were added to the Smash Brothers series, the cast of characters grew and new modes were introduced, so that each installment boasted an exceptional volume of content. In general, I think that making a game bigger is oftentimes not the way to make it better, but with Super Smash Brothers I see things differently. It felt right to squeeze as much in there as possible, like some kind of a bottomless vessel. The sort of game where quantity works. So I think that's a really great quote in here from Mr. Iwata. And he obviously was right there with Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Smash Brothers, who's directed every game since its inception. He was right there at the forefront of making Smash Brothers a reality. It talks about how he did all the programming and the coding for Sakurai and everything. And how it was kind of the ultimate indie game. It's a really great book. I highly recommend everybody to pick up a copy of it, even if you're not an avid reader. Like, I'm not a big reader, but it was really enjoyable. I genuinely teared up a couple times reading this book. It's a very good read. It's a short read too. It's an easily digestible book that you can get through pretty quickly. Anyways, the case in point. So Iwata, who next to Sakurai is the father, essentially the surrogate father, the godfather, I guess you could say, of Smash Brothers, says it right here in this book that he believes that in most cases with games, he's a believer in quality over quantity, but Smash Brothers he does think is a special case where he does think that it's better to pack each installment with more and more content. Now you can make the argument that Sakurai has a seemingly impossible challenge ahead of him, that there's just so much content now that it's just not realistic to keep pushing it any further. He's pushed the threshold, as high as he can. But I don't necessarily agree with that. I think what I would like to see for the next Smash Brothers game, what might be the most realistic thing, I don't want to see him do a hard reset. I also don't know if it's super necessary for them to make this new game from the ground up in a brand new engine and all that. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was not a port of the Wii U game, although a lot of people kind of wanted to act like it was at first. But as more and more details about that game came out after it was first announced, and then finally when it released and people had a chance to play it and see how different it was, I think people did accept, this is its own separate numbered entry. But that game does still borrow a lot of DNA from what came before, from Smash Brothers, Wii U, and to a lesser extent the 3DS game. So it's not a port. But personally, for me, I would not be disappointed if the next Smash Brothers game. I don't want to see the Switch 2 get like a whole bunch of ports of Switch 1 games, especially with the Switch 2 being backwards compatible. But Smash Brothers is one of those exceptions where it's like I would be understanding and I would be okay. I'd be more than okay if the next Smash Brothers game is essentially an enhanced port. It's a 4K port. Maybe they go in and improve some of the textures and the lighting engine or something. But it's all the content from Smash Brothers Ultimate with all the DLC, and then we just keep building from there. Personally, I would much rather that than a hard reset. That's what I would like to see for me personally. To get just all those stages carry over, all the fighters where you still got every single character from Sonic to Solid Snake to Terry Bogard, the whole roster, no cuts, and then you can just keep building from there. Because if you're essentially porting the game, maybe doing a light remaster where again upscale it to 4K. And then maybe adjust some things like some of the characters' colors look a little washed out. Like Mario is very weird. I mean, he's Nintendo's flagship mascot, but when you play as Mario in Smash Ultimate, like for whatever reason, like his shirt and hat look washed out. Like they look more pink than red, like they're faded. And his mustache almost looks kind of gray instead of black. So I don't know what's up with like the lighting on some of those character models. Maybe they can go in and touch that up a little bit. Luigi has a similar problem where he looks like he's graying. I don't know what happened there, but fix up some little stuff like that. That way they can really just focus on all of the new content. And in terms of new content, what I would like to see, this is a wish, but in some ways kind of a prediction because I could see it happening. I would like to see them just kind of essentially port over all the content from the original Smash Ultimate, but take out everything to do with the spirits, cut out the World of Light mode, cut all that out because I don't think most people really loved that. And if you're mostly just porting the game and not like making a brand new Smash Brothers game again, I feel like if they cut that stuff, then they can focus more resources into making a proper story mode that's like an actual legit campaign again, more like the Subspace Emissary, but lean maybe further into like each of the levels being based on an actual video game world. Like this is the Mario level, this is the Zelda level, etc. Because the World of Light just felt like such a big step back from Subspace Emissary, which was a mode that I really enjoyed, and all the cutscenes, were so cool to see. Just all these cinematic, they still look really good today, all these years later, like probably close to 15 years at this point. Actually, maybe over 15 years since Smash Brothers Brawl came out, which is crazy to think about. But I want to see them do something more like that again, where you're actually platforming through these levels. Part of the problem, when last time I played through Subspace Emissary, it felt a bit of a slog because you're doing all this platforming and stuff. But Brawl is so slow; it's such a sluggish game. If you took all those levels that were in the Subspace Emissary, but applied that to a game like Smash Ultimate, where the characters run speed is so much more quicker, it would be significantly more enjoyable. So I would love to see them take another stab at a Subspace Emissary-esque mode with all the fan service, with the cutscenes and seeing the characters interact with each other. I just think that would be great. The original version had like a 2-player co-op, so a buddy could join in. They could do like do the same thing, but make it where it's like online, so you can play online with somebody through the whole campaign. But yeah, I would like to see a bigger single-player focus. That's kind of an issue with Smash Brothers, but also with really with a lot of Nintendo's multiplayer-focused franchises, be it Mario Kart or Mario Party, where Splatoon's kind of an exception, but with all those others, like you really don't get that robust of a single-player mode. So if you're not playing it with other people, whether it's online with randos or your real life buddies, you're missing out on a big chunk of the game. Um, so I don't know. I would like to see more of a single player focus. And I mentioned getting rid of spirits again. If you're more or less porting the game over, so a lot of that heavy work is already done for you, and you're not wasting a whole lot of time doing like character balancing adjustments and all that stuff. Just kind of leaving it more or less where it was in Smash Ultimate as of like the last patch or whatever. Then you can focus more resources to other things. You can bring back trophies again. You can take the time to 3D model these trophies that people loved instead of just those static PNG images where you can actually rotate the model and zoom in on it and have a little description, describing who the character is and what games they're from. I think people would really like to see that return. And also, maybe they could focus more on doing it might be a little bit of a big task considering how many characters there are in Smash Brothers. But, I don't know. I can't imagine it would take more than, a few people on the development team. Smash Brothers is probably, I don't know how many people they have on that development team. I would imagine probably a couple hundred people. I don't know. But, have a few people dedicated to designing, a unique, target Smash level for each of the characters. I don't think that's that big of an ask. That would be kind of cool because we've really not seen that since Melee, where every character had a unique one. Maybe even bring back some event matches, which would just be another way to get some single player content in there, separate from the main single player campaign. Because if you're not going to have the spirits, then that means you're not going to have like the spirit board or whatever, where you've got those rotating challenges. Actually make like proper missions again, because I thought those were a lot more enjoyable than like the little spirit challenges that they had. But yeah, so I would love to see all that. Smash Ultimate really is the definitive version of Smash Brothers, but I think there's still room to grow even beyond there. Another big thing that's been a long requested feature to return. People loved Smash Run on the 3DS. Which was this mode, kind of like Kirby Air Ride's City Trial mode, which was also made by Sakurai, where essentially like you go around, there's like a 5-minute time limit or something like that, and you're in this big open area, and you're not focused on like fighting other players. You're kind of just going around and like beating up enemies from different Nintendo franchises, and collecting these upgrades and stuff. And then when time runs out, you play this little challenge, which might be it's random, so it'll either be like everybody's racing to the finish, or it might actually be like a more standard Smash battle, or it might be you're trying to be the first to like climb up vertically to the top of the screen, and so you've gotten these upgrades that you acquired during that 5 minutes where everybody was kind of off doing their own thing, upgrading your speed and your jump height and all these other different stats. And then you're applying that once you get into the randomly selected challenge that you do after that. So there's a lot of potential with Smash Run if they were to bring that back. It could be really, really chaotic if they made like a 8-player Smash Run mode, give it like online. Really, I mean, like, Battle Royale games are so huge right now, they could turn it into a Battle Royale. If, the online infrastructure of the Switch 2 can handle it. You got like, imagine just this massive stage. You got 100 people running around, and then at the end you all converge and do a challenge. It could be like an elimination type mode where it's like, the top 50% proceed, and then, the next round, top 30%. Almost like Fall Guys, where people get eliminated every round. So you play like 5 rounds of Smash Run, and then you finally are left with one victor. That could be a lot of fun. I'm just now thought of that here while I was talking about it. So I would love to see them go that route. Just bring back all this other content that people would like to see. Speaking of bringing back content people would like to see, the whole tagline with Smash Ultimate was, everyone is here. Da 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 da. You got the goosebumps in that really great trailer where they show Solid Snake and everybody. So everyone is here, but not everywhere is here. So we got most of the stages. Again, there's over 100 stages in Smash Ultimate. But there's a handful of stages that didn't come back. So I would love to see in this, deluxe enhanced port, whatever you want to call it, of Smash Ultimate, to have that last handful of stages that we don't currently have in Smash Brothers. So I'm talking about Pac Maze from the 3DS. That was a great Pac-Man stage, way better than the Pac-Land one that was on the Wii U game that for some reason made it back on Switch. That kind of sucked. It just looks like a Microsoft Paint level. I hate the Pac-Land stage. Bring back Pac Maze. That was a good one. I think there's ways you can make it work on a console and not not how it was before. You can adjust it. Bring back the Rainbow Road stage from Smash Brothers 3DS. That's one of my favorite Smash Brothers stages. I love that one. It's based on Mario Kart 7's Rainbow Road, which I think is the best Rainbow Road in Mario Kart's history. Bring back Pokey Floats. That's kind of a fan favorite. I know that one maybe was kind of rushed due to time constraints and development or whatever, but people love that stage. It's weird. Bring back from the Nintendo 64 game, you had Planet Zebus and the Great Fox. We've got stages that are similar to them, but it's not the exact same thing. So just port those over, kind of do like you did with the other Nintendo 64 stages in Smash Ultimate, and just leave them with that 64-bit aesthetic. I think that would make it stand out from the other more modern stages that are kind of similar to that, like Bryn Star or Corneria. But yeah, bring all those back. The Donkey Kong stage was it Jungle Hijinks, I think, from the Wii U game, where you could shoot into the background and foreground. That one might have had some complications because of the stage morph feature, but surely they can find a workaround to that. I hope stage morph comes back though. That was a really cool feature. I liked that. Bring that back. Orbital Gate Assault. That was a really cool one from Smash Wii U. There was the Melee version of Mute City from F-Zero. Bring that back. Just bring back all these remaining stages that didn't make the cut. Yeah, I guess even what was it? Those vertical scrolling climbing stages. You had the Ice Climbers one. Was it Summit? Or maybe Summit's the name of the one that's already in Smash Ultimate. But whichever Ice Climber stage it is where you're scrolling up vertically and you got to look out for the polar bear with the sunglasses, and then that I think it might have been called Jungle Falls or something like that, Congo Falls, the Donkey Kong stage where you're climbing vertically up a waterfall. Those levels kind of suck, but just bring them back. Why not, if you're going to put everything else in there? So I'd really like to see all that come back. I've also got noted down here a handful of stages that I would really love to see come to the next Smash Brothers game. And these are stages that are not necessarily tied with a character that I foresee getting into Smash Brothers. But we'll just go ahead and talk about them. So first off, I would love a Little Nightmares stage. I think, Little Nightmares, it already has a pretty strong presence on Nintendo Switch. The first two games are on there. The third game's not out yet, but I think, have they confirmed it's coming to Switch? I imagine it is. I don't necessarily want the main character, what's her name, is it 9 or something like that? The girl with the yellow rain jacket or whatever. I'm not really that interested in seeing her get into Smash Brothers. But a Little Nightmares stage where it's all dark and creepy, and it's like an instant KO if you get grabbed, like the guy with the long grabby arms, like the first boss you fight. I think he's like a janitor or whatever, and he's just kind of a torso from the waist up. He's maybe got two little tiny feet, but he's got these massive arms, and he's blind, and he just kind of listens to sounds and smells and sniffs the player out. But if there's just a giant one of him in the background, and you got to look out for being grabbed by his hands, that's like an instant KO. Evoking those kind of creepy horror vibes, like the 9-volt stage where 9-volt's mom comes out of the TV and everything from Game & Wario. I think that would be really cool. I've also got on here Tetris / Dr. Mario. Honestly, I think I would be happy, if they made these two different stages. I think both would be great. But yeah, having these falling block puzzle stages where you're having to look out for dropping tetraminos, and then, or, the little capsules in the case of Dr. Mario. I think both of those would make really fun stages. Dr. Mario, is a playable character in the latest game and also was in Melee, but he doesn't really have his own stage. And Tetris obviously doesn't have a character to represent it. What character would you put in? I mean, But there is music and stuff like that. So I think Tetris, especially with as long of a legacy as it's had with Nintendo, I think it deserves to have a stage. They could even make it like a black and white, like a monochromatic stage within a Game Boy screen, like they did for that one Kirby stage. That could be cool. And then maybe the Dr. Mario one's actually like kind of more modernized looking and like in color and stuff. So you've kind of got the two different takes on the falling block puzzle formula. But I would love that to get in there. I've never been the biggest Sonic fan until more recently, but Sonic is such a huge iconic franchise, and I feel like his stage representation doesn't really do it justice. So we got Green Hill Zone, which is a fine stage. I wouldn't say it's anything to write home about. Then you got the Windy Hill Zone stage, which is kind of it's in some ways it's kind of Green Hill again. Very similar aesthetics. I think it's a really big missed opportunity that Sonic doesn't have something a little bit more different. I think one of the first things that comes to mind is Chemical Plant. I think a Chemical Plant zone that kind of looks like how it does in Sonic Generations would be a really great Smash Brothers stage. They could even do a thing where like sometimes like the water raises and lowers, and you have to kind of look out for that. They could do a casino night stage because Sonic's also very very heavily associated with casinos. So I think those are the two most obvious picks: either Chemical Plant or a casino stage with like poker chips and roulette wheels and all that stuff. Crap table or whatever. Pardon my French. But I think that could be really fun. Or put both of them in there. I don't care. They could even do I think the ones that I named would be the most important for Sonic, but they could also do like a traveling City Escape stage that could be cool based on Sonic Adventure 2. I think that's the one with City Escape, right? Never actually played the adventure games. I know, stone me. But yeah, I think it's Sonic Adventure 2. They could have like a traveling stage, I can imagine, where like you're on the moving platform. It's almost like a Final Destination type thing. And in the background, you're being chased by this truck, and so you're just kind of going down the streets of San Francisco or wherever wherever that level takes place. I think that could be a lot of fun. So yeah, more Sonic representation that does something different beyond the Green Hill Zone. Also, more Donkey Kong representation that's not just the jungle. There's so many different Donkey Kong jungle themed courses. I love a course themed around Tropical Freeze where everything's kind of frozen over. Because really, throughout Smash Brothers' history, I think we've only had 2 snow stages, 2 like icy, wintry themed levels, and both of those are from Ice Climber, which is a series nobody really cares about. So I think it would be great if they could do that. Technically, I think on the Yoshi's Island stage, the seasons change, and sometimes it might start snowing there, but that doesn't count. But yeah, Tropical Freeze stage, I think that would be awesome. I'd really like to see that a lot. Fortnite, I'm not the biggest Fortnite guy. I think it could be fun. But I think there could be a really, really cool traveling stage, though, where like the arena is the battle bus. Like you're on top of the battle bus and you're flying over, all these iconic landmarks on the map and stuff. I think that could be really cool. Maybe occasionally you even like land and like you're fighting at like some of the the locales on the map. It's been so long since I've played Fortnite, I can't even remember the names of the places that you can drop into. There's like the lake with that little. And obviously I know they change it every season, so that stuff's probably not even there now. But what's like I can't remember the name of that lake, and then you got that like kind of like that fort or that like log cabin that you can go inside there. That was a cool place to drop. And then you've got like there's a town that's named after food, right? There's that song where that kid's singing about it, dropping down in blank town. I can't think of what that blank is. But yeah, I'd love to see. I think a Fortnite stage could actually be really, really cool. Even though I know people have their opinions about Fortnite, which I understand. But it could make for a cool level. And then also the Devil's Casino from Cuphead. I adore Cuphead. I think having a 2D stage that's got all the kind of like the imperfections in the film, where it's got kind of like a filter over it with like the grainy, film strip quality and stuff. And you've got like King Dice. I love King Dice. He's like one of my favorite characters, probably from any video game. He's just there in the background doing his hand thing, and then maybe you can hit a dice, and then it like transforms the stage into like one of the arenas from like one of the other bosses or something. I think that could be really cool. Maybe they couldn't do that actually in Smash Brothers. That might get the game a higher ESRB rating than they'd want, because all of those casino fights are kind of themed around, like one of them's like alcohol and one of them's cigarettes. So Nintendo might be like, yeah, I don't know about that. But I mean, they got Cuphead in Smash Ultimate as a deluxe Mii costume, which was really cool. So Nintendo obviously has an interest in it. I mean, Miyamoto was heavily inspired by stuff like Popeye, like old black and white cartoons and stuff. So I wouldn't doubt that Miyamoto's probably seen Cuphead and probably is a big fan, and maybe even championed to get Cuphead in Smash. I don't know. But yeah, I think a Cuphead stage would be really cool. Even if it's not Devil's Casino, if that one's a little too risque for Nintendo, they could pick any other number of stages from that game. But I think that would be awesome. Yeah, those were just a handful that I put down as stuff that would be kind of neat to see. I don't know, maybe also like a Shantae stage or something. We really don't have very much like deserty levels in Smash. All I can really think of is like Mushroomy Kingdom, where it's like 1-1 from the original Super Mario Brothers, but now it's all deserty and stuff. That could be kind of fun. I don't know if they would put Shantae in Smash. I know there was a big campaign to get her in there. But whether they do or not, I think having an Arabian desert themed level would be really cool. Yeah, I gotta get a sip of water. Sorry guys, I'm very thirsty. All this talking makes your mouth dry. So I need to have like a guest that can come on the show with me, so it's not just me talking the whole time. But yeah, with that said, that's some features that I would like to see in the game. A lot of which I don't think are really that impossible or that unlikely. But now I'm just going to get into my wish list of the characters that I want to see get into Smash Ultimate, and some of these might be more out there than others. Typically with like, if you do like a wish list, you kind of start from the worst and work your way up to the best, like, a countdown, at number 10, blah, 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 number 9. I'm probably just going to go from the top down, because honestly, I don't even know if I have a top 10. I wrote down all these characters I'd like to see, and like, I really don't even know what order I would put some of these in. But I do know, my top, I'll read off, I'll read my top 6 off in order from lowest to highest. Because those I feel pretty strongly about. So at number 6, Waluigi. He's probably one of the only first party characters on this list. But I love Waluigi. He's one of those characters you either love him or hate him. I was kind of surprised when I found out how vocal some people are about their dislike of Waluigi. There's more Waluigi haters than I realized. But I think he's great. He's kind of a big meme character. He's kind of got that Dr. Doofenshmirtz energy. He's weird. He's zany. He's very memeable. I think he would make a really fun Smash Brothers character. I really like Waluigi. And I think it was more understandable before to not have him in the game. But I think at this point where it's like you've got Daisy in there, but not Waluigi. You've got Rosalina. Rosalina's like, 10 years newer than Waluigi. Well, actually, not really. Waluigi made his debut in, 2001? Rosalina debuted in, 2007. So I guess Waluigi's only, 6 years older than Rosalina. That's kind of crazy. But anyway, Waluigi, he's just been such a mainstay throughout all the spin-offs, all the Mario sports games and the party games. He's never really been in a mainline Mario game, but he should be. But yeah, I love Waluigi, so I think he could be a really fun character. He could use a lot of sports equipment. His smash attack could be using a golf club or a tennis racket, which Peach already kind of does that stuff, but maybe they could rework her moveset, especially since Princess Peach Showtime is a thing now, so they've kind of got more material that they could draw from for Peach. I do think I could see them updating some of the characters' movesets. Not necessarily super drastically, but kind of like how they did in Smash Ultimate. We might get something like that again, where a few characters kind of get, like Ganondorf finally got to use his sword. I could see stuff like that where Peach, gets an upgrade where she can kind of use maybe like Sword Fighter Peach or like one of the different transformations in Princess Peach Showtime. I think Bowser might get a new Final Smash. I think it might be time to say goodbye to Giga Bowser, because Giga Bowser, while really cool, that's only really a thing in Smash Brothers as kind of like the final boss in Smash Brothers Melee, and not really tied to the Mario franchise specifically. I think they'll probably replace that with with Bowser's dark paint transformation or whatever from Bowser's Fury, where he's just this giant black monster, just super terrifying Godzilla kaiju, whatever. I think that's probably what's going to happen in the next Smash Brothers game. I don't think we're going to get Giga Bowser again. I think it's going to be that dark Bowser from Bowser's Fury. And some other characters might see some little changes like that. I think it might be time, even though Tears of the Kingdom is the newest mainline 3D Mario Zelda game. Nintendo's kind of said that they're ready to move on from that. And so, considering that at some point in the Switch 2 life cycle we'll probably get like a different Zelda game with a different art style, I think maybe it's time to retire the Breath of the Wild art style for Link, and maybe go back to a more like Twilight Princess or something kind of more more default Link, more with the green hat and all that stuff. Although I would love for the next Smash Brothers game to have more costumes. I'd love to have, if you can do like a Breath of the Wild Link costume, but then also have Skyward Sword Link there, and Ocarina of Time Link, and Twilight Princess Link. It kind of sucks that you only kind of have that one iteration of adult Link in each of the games, the Smash Brothers games. But I think that's one of the strengths of like Hyrule Warriors. You've got all these different costumes representing all these different games. So yeah, I would love to see Smash Brothers lean more into that, where you can have that whichever version of Link is your favorite, you can play as that version in Smash, the next Smash Brothers game. But anyway, I kind of got off track there. We were talking about Waluigi. So my number 5 pick after Waluigi would be Hades from Kid Icarus Uprising. Not Hades from the popular indie game Hades, but Kid Icarus Uprising. It's my favorite game on 3DS. And Hades and Kid Icarus, he has just such a cool, just bad A design. He looks so sick. I love it. It's my favorite iteration of Hades in any media ever. Eat your heart out. Disney's Hercules Hades. Nintendo's adaptation, I think, is way better. He's got this regal sort of British voice, oh pity pat, and he's really sarcastic and like comedic. He's like the funniest character in the game. He's like super sarcastic and like, but he's also like incredibly scary and intimidating. It's like he's just toying with you, kind of like the Joker or something, right? Where he's just so sure of himself, I guess, and just so arrogant by the fact that he thinks that his plan is going to work, that like it's all just a game to him. He's just toying with you. So he's got all these really funny lines that'll have you cracking up, but at the same time he's like, you pee in your pants because he could just like kill you in a heartbeat. But yeah, I love Hades. I don't know if he would get into Smash Brothers because Nintendo's kind of got this thing, Sakurai said, that with Smash Brothers he kind of wants to relegate it to characters that made their debut in video games, that are video game characters first and foremost. And he specifically mentions people have asked him about SpongeBob or Goku or Spider-Man getting in, but he's like, well, they might have video game adaptations, but those are primarily not video game characters. They're cartoon characters or anime characters or comic book characters. They're not, at the heart of it, they didn't start as video game characters. So even though that particular incarnation of Hades is Nintendo's own unique spin on it, where it's not really fully their own original character and it's rooted in Greek mythology, I could see Sakurai being like, no, that doesn't count. We can't put Hades in Smash Brothers because Nintendo did not come up with Hades as a concept. I could be wrong about that, but I could kind of see Nintendo feeling that way about it. So I don't know if I'll ever get Hades and Smash Brothers, because like from Kid Icarus, you've got Pit, Dark Pit, and Palutena represented. As far as I know, Palutena is not, she's not actually, she's a goddess in the games, but she's not a goddess, that has its origins in Greek mythology. To my knowledge, I could be wrong about that. And same with like Pit, So, yeah, I don't know. But I would love to see Hades get into the game. He could be, just be another villain in the roster. Smash Ultimate was great for bringing in a bunch of cool villains. They brought Wolf back. They put in King K. Rool. You got Ridley in there, Dark Samus. So yeah, just keeping the train rolling with more villains from different franchises, I think would be great. He'd probably be another heavyweight. So I don't know. I think he would be a fun character to have in the roster. Just a very strong, very powerful, but somewhat slow heavyweight character that maybe doesn't have the greatest recovery. I think that would be pretty cool. Moving on, this one, might be, some people might laugh at this, but my number 4 pick is Miss Pac-Man. I really love Pac-Man as a franchise. I think Miss Pac-Man would be a perfect Echo Fighter, or she could be an alternate skin for Pac-Man. Just put a bow on his head, give him some eyeliner, some lipstick, kind of change the shape of his gloves, make him a little bit more petite, more feminine, give him the more pointy-toed boots with a bit more of an arch, and you got Miss Pac-Man. Granted, I know there's kind of some licensing issues, so I don't necessarily expect her to get into the next Smash Brothers game, unfortunately, because Namco doesn't fully own the rights. It's kind of this whole complicated legal thing where, like, it was kind of, I think, from my understanding, like a joint ownership of, like, Namco with Midway. Like, I guess Namco maybe owns the IP, but then Midway has something over the, I don't know, like the merchandising or something like that. And I guess from my understanding, it was never a problem, they just were able to work with it. But then I guess Midway sold those rights to this other company, and then that's where the issues arise, because this other company's kind of like, I guess being difficult, and Namco, even though they got the money, I'm sure, they're just like, no, if that's how you're going to be, we just won't ever use Miss Pac-Man again. How do you like that? So that way neither of us are profiting off of her as a character. But with that said, Miss Pac-Man does make a cameo on the Pac-Land stage in Smash Ultimate, despite those legal issues. So Nintendo could be the mediator to say, like, well, we don't care. If you don't want to do it, Namco, we can talk to them. We'll get the license and stuff taken care of, so you don't even have to worry about it. That is a possibility, but I'm not really counting on it. But I would really like to see Miss Pac-Man, and whereas Pac-Man, he's got the move where he can throw like all of the fruits and stuff from his game, like throw a apple or a Galaxian or a pear or whatever. It could be the items from Miss Pac-Man. I think in that game, some of the items that would spawn on the stage that you could eat for points would be maybe like a pretzel and like different foods like that. I forget what all the items were in Miss Pac-Man, but hers could be that. So I think she could be a fun Echo Fighter for Pac-Man. So she's my number 4. Number 3, Spyro the Dragon. I'm a huge fan of 3D platformers. Spyro is one of those characters that is kind of representative of the PlayStation brand, kind of one of the OG PlayStation mascots, if you will. I love the original Spyro the Dragon game to death. So I think Spyro would make a really fun fighter. His special moves, like if you're standing still and press B, it could be that he breathes fire, kind of like Bowser. He could also have kind of like a charging attack, because he kind of charges, he bucks his horn. And then in some of the later games, he gets different power-ups, like kind of like a ground slam move. That could be like his down B move or something. His recovery could be a little bit similar to like Meta Knight's or like Steve's from Minecraft, where he gets his wings out and he can glide. I'd love to see Spyro. I'm a big fan of the original Spyro the Dragon game, and it would be cool to have a character like that get into Smash before Sony's PlayStation All-Stars. I think that would be really funny. But moving on to number 2, my number 2 pick is Rayman. Rayman Legends is my favorite 2D platformer of all time. I absolutely adore that game. Rayman, of course, is owned by Ubisoft, however you pronounce it. Um, and they've always had a pretty close relationship with Nintendo. Rayman has always been pretty closely tied with Nintendo. More or less since its inception. The first Rayman game started on PS1, but then it did get like a Game Boy Color version sometime later, and then like Rayman 2 was on N64, and so on, so on. Rayman was even one of the only third-party characters to get a trophy in Smash Brothers for Wii U, which was really interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I think it would be great. They got an Assassin's Creed. Oh God, I'm blanking. They got like an Assassin's Creed me costume in Smash Ultimate. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it would be really great if they could get Rayman in there as a character. He could have like a really cool stage with just like a beautiful hand drawn background with the UB art engine. Like they made some beautiful levels in Rayman Legends where it's almost like you're playing a Disney movie, like a 90s Disney movie or something. It looks so good. That's part of why I love the game so much. So a stage based on that would be incredible. But moving on to my number one most wanted character in Super Smash Brothers, and that is Crash Bandicoot. Of course, you can't have Spyro without Crash Bandicoot. You got to have Crash first, right? He is the PlayStation 1 mascot. And it's kind of ironic that Crash and Spyro probably have a better chance now of getting into Smash Brothers than they ever have before, now that Xbox owns them. So they went from the hands of one of Nintendo's rivals to another rival, but this other rival is like really chummy, really buddy-buddy with the competition for whatever reason, and just whoring out all their all their IP. I don't know why, but hey, as a consumer, thank you, Microsoft. I appreciate you doing that. I don't know if it's the best business decision. It's not really making me want to rush out and buy an Xbox if I can play it on my Switch or on PlayStation, but it's cool that you're doing it, so thanks. But yeah, now might actually be the time that we could get Crash in Smash. And I've always had this vision for Crash's reveal trailer that I think could be really fun, where they do the thing where they like make a modernized version of that old 1999 North American Smash Brothers commercial, where it's the guy in the Mario suit and the Yoshi suit and the Donkey Kong and the Pikachu and the Yoshi suit, and they're all holding hands and they're skipping merrily, and you hear that you and me and you, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. That song that plays in that really infamous Smash Brothers commercial, and then Mario just ups and trips Yoshi, and they all start beating the crap out of each other while the music's still playing. Really great commercial from the 90s, but also great marketing from the 90s is when Crash Bandicoot first came out on the PS1, they would have this guy in a Crash Bandicoot mascot costume who'd go around with a megaphone and stand outside Nintendo HQ and be like, yelling at Mario, "Hey there, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmares arrived." I'd love to see them merge those two things together, where the Nintendo characters in the costume, they're skipping around merrily, gaily through the meadows, having a picnic, and then Crash Bandicoot in a costume, just this live action cinematic where then the Crash Bandicoot in the costume shows up to ruin their day. I think that would be so much fun. And the tagline could be like, Crash Bandicoot crashes the party. You could do some really fun stuff with that. For the stage, it could be like the warp room from Crash like 2 or 3, and then it could like kind of like teleport, like you go through the different portals, and like now you're at like a boulder level, and you got to look out for like a rolling boulder that's coming toward the screen, and like now you're in a futuristic space level, and stuff like that. I think that could be really cool. Now you're in a sewer level, so yeah, Crash Bandicoot. I adore the Crash Bandicoot series. It's one of my Crash Bandicoot 2 in particular is like a top 5 game of all time for me personally. I love it. And if they wanted to, I think Coco would be a great Echo Fighter or an alternate skin for Crash. Because they have more or less the same move set in, the Insane Trilogy remake. So throw Coco in there too. But yeah, that is my top six characters. Some other honorable mentions that I'd love to see get into Smash Brothers. Dixie Kong. She is a iconic Donkey Kong Country character. You play as her in Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3. Kind of weird that you play as her in more games in the Super Nintendo Donkey Kong Country trilogy than you do Donkey Kong himself. He's only playable in the first one. Kiddy Kong is playable in as many games as him, um, but yeah, she's also in Tropical Freeze, and she's like the most overpowered character, so you only ever really use her in Tropical Freeze. So put her in there. I think that could be cool. More Donkey Kong representation is always great. Now that we got King K. Rool. Of course, you could do Cranky Kong. You could do Funky Kong. Funky Kong could be like a Donkey Kong Echo or something. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to either of those two getting in. But I do think that Dixie Kong deserves it more. Um, also, I've got on here Tetra from Wind Waker. And, she could be a transforming character if they wanted to. I won't spoil who she transforms into because Wind Waker, frankly, you know, it's only ever been on the GameCube and the Wii U, which are like Nintendo's two worst selling consoles. So there could be a good chance that you've never played Wind Waker and don't actually know the twist involving Tetra. So I won't spoil that. But if they wanted to make her a 2-in-1 character, they could do that. But I think she would have a really good, really cool fighting potential. She's like, all of her attacks could be piratey with like, cannons and stuff, and a little, her sword. I think she even has like a little like hand pistol or something. I know she uses that, I believe, in Hyrule Warriors. So I think she would be a really cool character to have in there. Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door is my favorite game of all time. And a lot of people, championed for Paper Mario to get into Smash Brothers. Personally, I was never super crazy about that idea because it's like, well, I'd rather a fully original, unique character because we've already got regular Mario, and then there's Dr. Mario. Then we've got like a bajillion Links. There's Adult Link, there's Young Link, there's Toon Link. So I kind of get tired of the duplicate characters. But the more I thought about it, it was like, well, Paper Mario really could have great moveset potential if they incorporate all of his different partners throughout the games. That would be some really great fan service. He could have Parakarry as his recovery move. I think that could be really good. Be kind of similar to the Flying Pikmin for Olimar. You could have, like his neutral B move could be like he kicks Koops' shell, and then you keep the B button held in and to kind of suspend him in place. And then whenever you want to, you can let go of B and send the shell back to Mario, and then it damages any opponents that get caught in its path. He could have a move where he lobs, Bobbery, and, he blows up after a couple seconds. You could have, of course, his regular smash move would be he charges up his hammer. Maybe he could even make the beeps like the doot, 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 so then it's fully charged and you let go. And I think this would be really fun if there's like a meter, like a star meter, kind of like how Mario could use like the crystal stars powers in Thousand Year Door, where you have to appeal to the audience by taunting. So like the more you can taunt, it fills up that meter, so it's kind of a risk versus reward thing, because when you're taunting, you're left vulnerable. All of his taunts would be like Mario's like waving at the audience and stuff like that. And that fills this special meter to where Mario can, maybe become stronger for a certain amount of time. Because I forget, I think it might have been like the bronze crystal star, the one that you get in chapter 3 after you beat Grubba in the Glitz pit. That like makes Mario, like his attack and defense stats can go up. So I think that could be kind of fun. You fill up that special meter, then Mario can use that crystal star that makes his stats go up for a limited amount of time. His down B could be where Lady Bo turns him invisible, and it could be kind of a like a counter move where if somebody attacks you while you're invisible, then Lady Bo pops out and and like scares the opponent, and it inflicts that damage back on them. So yeah, the more I've thought about it, I'm like, yeah, Paper Mario could have like a really incredibly cool move set. So like, I really want Paper Mario to get in Smash Brothers now. Um, I didn't always feel that way, but now I'm like, oh yeah, and it could have like he could have like a uh, Rogueport stage where you're kind of like in the plaza with like the noose. That could be really fun. Maybe it could even be like a transforming stage, and then it's like, oh, now you're in the glitz pit. That could be really fun. Like now you're down in the sewers in front of the Thousand-Year Door. There's a lot I think they could do with that, and his final smash could maybe use like he summons like the pure hearts and the light prognosticus from Super Paper Mario. I'd love to see a reference to that game as well, because I think that game is really great. It's a little bit more divisive. Not everybody loves it, but I really enjoy it. Um, and then also Hat Kid from A Hat in Time. I don't see Hat Kid having a chance in heck of getting in Smash Brothers. Best bet might would be a deluxe me costume. Probably not even that. Maybe a regular me costume if we're lucky, and maybe a song. I'd love to hear like the song for when you're fighting Snatcher. I think it might be called like Your Contract is Expired. Or the song like the train wreck of Electro Swing, I think it's called, like from the train level. But Hat in Time is just a fantastic indie 3D platformer. I'm planning to play that very soon on the channel, so stay tuned for that. But I think Hat Kid would have such a fun moveset with her, her umbrella as a weapon that she can attack with and stuff, and her different hat-based abilities. I think that could be a lot of fun. She could probably have a cool stage too. But I don't think that's realistic. That's probably not going to happen. But another character that I would like to see. I'm just kind of going through a grab bag. I did my top 6, and now these are all just kind of, I guess, honorable mentions. So from the Kirby series, a lot of people talk about Bandana Waddle Dee because he's kind of become a series mainstay. He's kind of like your 4th playable character after Kirby and King Dedede and Meta Knight. And since the other 2 are in Smash Brothers, well, the other 3 are in Smash Brothers, people want him to complete the quartet. If Kirby gets more representation, kind of like with Hades, I'd like to see more villains. Specifically, Marx is my favorite Kirby character / villain. I think they could do some really fun stuff with him. He's this jester that kind of rides around on a ball, so he could have all these like kind of circus based moves, and then like all kinds of stuff when he like transforms into like his ultimate form with like wings and stuff, and he's got all these crazy moves. I think there's some really cool stuff that they could do with Marks, and I'd love to have a Marks amiibo. I'm going to do another podcast on this channel, probably sooner rather than later, where we talk about the untapped potential of amiibo. So we'll get more to that in the future. Another character, Captain Toad. Toad has been a playable character since Super Mario Brothers 2, so he's been pretty important, more or less, since the beginning. And we've got a freaking playable Piranha Plant. If Piranha Plant can be playable in Smash, why not Toad? If they wanted to, they could specifically go the route of Captain Toad. That might be a little bit more tricky because in Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, the whole thing is that he can't jump because his backpack's too heavy. So, I don't know if they'd be able to incorporate it in such a way where, White Boy Toad can't jump in Smash Brothers. That would be, it's a platform fighter, so it would be difficult to imagine how he could be in the game if he can't jump. Maybe he just has a really bad jump like Little Mac, but I don't know. So maybe just regular Toad. Either way, Toadette could be a palette swap for him. I don't know if she necessarily needs to be her own Echo Fighter, but, she could be an alternate costume for Toad. I think that could be pretty cool. Who else do I have on my list here? Got some more third-party stuff. Shantae. I'm not the biggest fan of the Shantae games, to be honest, and I think that's mostly just I'm not a huge Metroidvania guy, because I tend to just kind of get lost and frustrated, and it gets kind of tedious. You're doing a lot of backtracking and all that stuff. I love Shantae's character design, though. I think she's just a really, really cool looking, fun, character design. I don't know. I think it would be cool to have her in. There'd be another female representation. It would be kind of like an Arab or like Middle Eastern representation as well. And I'm not one of those people that's like, we have to meet a certain like racial quota, for diversity. whatever. But she's not a DEI character. She, I think, deserves to get into Smash Brothers. She's one of the quintessential indie characters. I would argue she deserves it more than Shovel Knight. Although Shovel Knight would be cool. I wouldn't be disappointed if Shovel Knight got in. I think I've probably got him here somewhere on this list. But yeah, I think she's been around since the Game Boy. And playing that game for the first time like about a year or so ago, it's really ahead of its time. It's shocking how, I guess technically it was Game Boy Color, but it's shocking how much they were able to cram into that game. It's really impressive. I actually did enjoy the original Shantae quite a bit. But like I played Half Genie Hero, I was kind of on that one, which I've heard that one's not really the best. I never finished the most recent one. What was it? The Seven Sirens or whatever. I forget the exact name of it. Something like that. But yeah, I'm looking at this list here. That's probably the majority, at least of the realistic picks that I'd love to see in Smash Brothers. To name one more real quick, Amaterasu, that would be really cool from Okami. I think there's a lot of moveset potential there. That just be a really great character. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I played Okami on the Wii U back in or not the Wii U, the Switch in maybe 2019 or something like that. I adored it. I loved that game so much. So that'd be another Capcom rep. Do yourself a favor and play Okami. It goes on sale for dirt cheap on the eShop all the time. I think I bought that game for maybe I don't think I paid any more than $10 for it. And this is like a 40-hour game to get through. This is a meaty, and it's a 3D game. It's not like this is a 2D pixel art. Not to disparage those games, but you're really getting a lot of bang for your buck with this game. And it probably goes on sale cheaper now. It's probably, I don't know, been permanently discounted to where if it goes on sale nowadays, it's probably like $5 or something. So do yourself a favor, download that game off the eShop. It's this great game with this cool Japanese ink calligraphy inspired art style, but again, it's in 3D, so it's interesting the way that they make that work. Yeah, it's a great game, and they're working on a sequel now, so get Amaterasu and Smash Brothers. I could keep going, but some of these are that's probably never going to happen. Something really drastic would have to happen to improve Nintendo and Sony's relationship enough to where Sony would put one of their IP in Smash Brothers. Getting Jak and Daxter or Sly Cooper, that would be a dream come true, but that's not really realistic, so why waste time talking about it? There's some other characters on this list that are kind of in the same vein, like Ai from Monkey Ball, or the little prince from Katamari Damacy. I love both of those franchises, but they're games where you roll around a ball. I don't really know how, if anyone would be able to figure out it's Sakurai, but I don't know how you would make a moveset based on that. Girahim from Skyward Sword, he would be a pretty cool one. I would much rather see Girahim than Skull Kid. I think Skull Kid's kind of overrated. I'm not the biggest fan of Majora's Mask personally. I understand why people really like that game, but for me it stresses me out. I only finally got around to beating Majora's Mask a year ago, and I'm not in a big hurry to do it again. But again, it's a game. I don't really like Majora's Mask, but I appreciate it for what it is. I respect it. I'm happy it exists. I think it's a strong artistic statement, that game. And so it's not for everybody. Art is subjective. But again, I appreciate that game. It's not for me, but yeah, I'm glad it exists. But I put on here Midna. She's one of my favorite Zelda characters. They could do a thing in Hyrule Warriors where she's riding on the back of Wolf Link or something similar. But if they're gonna put if they were to put Amaterasu from Okami, they'd probably have to pick one or the other because they would be such similar fighters, But yeah, another one I've got on here. Just kind of going through the list. Maybe we'll stop reading from this list of characters that I'd be interested in and just kind of get into my predictions, I think. We've been going for over an hour at this point. So yeah, I think it's a good time to go ahead and transition over into my realistic predictions. You can quote me on these. I feel fairly confident that, maybe not everything, but that some of the things could happen in terms of characters that I could see getting into Smash Brothers Ultimate 2, we'll call it. I don't know if that would be the name. Some people might say that's a weird name. I could see them calling it that. I mean, look at like how ridiculous Street Fighter is with all the different versions of Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Street Fighter 2 Deluxe, Ultra, Mega, prefix combo. So, so yeah, but my predictions, at launch, these are just kind of all the characters they could pick. I think there's a decent chance they'll pick, a handful of these. Some of them are characters we talked about in my wish list, like for example, Waluigi. He's a very easy character. I would not be surprised if Waluigi gets in because like he's a first party Nintendo character. They own him. They don't have to do any licensing. And a lot of people have really been rallying for Waluigi, so I would be shocked if we get a new Smash Brothers game where it's not a hard reset and they keep building on it and they don't put Waluigi. That it just doesn't make sense. So Waluigi, that's an easy one for Nintendo. I also put on here, I think Dixie Kong could have a good chance. I think the base game will have, a lot of first party characters. The DLC is where they're going to lean more heavily into the third parties. I don't know how that works, like in terms of like negotiating, like the, how much of a cut of the, how much of a slice of the pie that these third party companies get. If they get more money out of it being a separate character released for $6 versus them being one of 80 characters in the base game that people buy for $60. I don't know. I imagine the third party companies get more money if it's a DLC character because then that like the audience is buying it for that character. So I don't know, but yeah. So I think there'll be some third party characters at launch. A lot of third party characters at launch. First party, sorry. One of which being. I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan, but, realistically, they're going to keep adding Pokemon characters because Pokemon is a huge IP. I don't know if they're necessarily going to continue the trend of, like, where every new game has to have a character representing the newest generation. Obviously, Scarlet and Violet was very controversial, so, maybe they'll put a character from that generation in there, maybe they won't. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't think they have one in yet for Sword and Shield, do they? But that was also a controversial generation that a lot of people were upset about. But I think I could realistically see them putting Eevee in. I think Pokemon's declared this year like the year of Eevee. I don't know what all that's going to entail. Obviously, they did the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee back in like 2018. So I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan. I don't know a ton about Pokemon, but evidently Eevee is like a super popular character, and I think maybe even some polls is like preferred over Pikachu. So yeah, I think Eevee I could definitely see getting into the next Smash Brothers game. I think that's a pretty safe pick, honestly. And then also a couple others that I think are very safe picks. I think I would be shocked if we do not get another Animal Crossing rep. Animal Crossing New Horizons, I think even maybe outsold Smash Ultimate with like 40 million copies or something. It was just kind of a massive cash cow. It was a huge phenomenon during the pandemic, So yeah, I think Tom Nook is a lock for this game. We might even get another rep. I could see KK Slider getting in there too, but I think Tom Nook, I would be shocked if he is not in the base game, not DLC, but like at launch, Tom Nook is in the game. But I also put KK Slider on here. And then let's see, we talked about Dixie Kong. Maybe Toad or Captain Toad / Toadette. We already kind of mentioned that. It's another first party pick. A lot of people have asked for it. Same thing with like Bandana Waddle Dee. A lot of people have asked for him. Again, I would prefer Marks or like one of the villains from Kirby, but there's not been a whole bunch of people clamoring for it. Nintendo knows there's demand for that character. And again, it's another easy first party character. So Bandana Waddle Dee, I could see that happening. Louis from Pikmin, I think I could see him being an Echo Fighter of Olimar. Really, I'd like to see more costumes. Like, we had the costume of Alf who was the one of the playable characters in Pikmin 3. But I'd also like to see if they could get costumes for like Brittany and Charlie in there. I feel like it wouldn't be that hard because they have more or less the same body types. But yeah, Louis, I think he would be a good second Pikmin character in the roster as kind of a more or less a clone of Olimar, especially since we had Pikmin 4 come out a couple of years ago, and Nintendo was really heavily marketing that game and wanted it to be a success. Great game, everybody should play it, and it I think is the best selling Pikmin game. It might have sold like 4 million copies or so, maybe 5 million. I don't know, maybe not that much. But that's pretty good. That's like Kirby numbers. That's probably better than most Kirby games sell, actually. So, like, that's pretty good. I know it's maybe not what Nintendo or Miyamoto would have liked, because I know he once said that he wanted it to be the next Pokemon. But yeah, so I don't know. I got that down. I think we could get some more Metroid representation, especially with we've got Metroid Dread now, and then Metroid Prime 4. It's on its way and will be out by the time we get the next Smash Brothers game. So I think Silex, he's like the main villain, I believe, in Metroid Prime 4, and he's been in some other Metroid games. But I think even cooler than him, though, more so than him, I would love to see. I think his name was Razorbeak from Metroid Dread, who was like a Chozo. He was a really cool antagonist, so I would love to see him. I think Samus should get like an alternate skin where it's like her suit at the start of that game. I think that's my favorite suit of Samus's. It's kind of patriotical. I've got it on my amiibo shelf where it's kind of got like the red, white, and blue color scheme, like Captain America or something. But that would be really cool. Hold on, I gotta charge my laptop because it is dying. I thought I had it plugged up. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Turns out I accidentally, I guess, flipped the surge protector off, so I had to turn that back on. Might be able to hear a little bit of noise. Hopefully, not too bad. Sometimes the fan on my laptop runs kind of loud once I plug it in, but I think it's starting to quiet down. But anyway, picking up where we left off. We were talking about those two villains from Metroid. That I think would be a good fit. I could see them getting into the next Smash Brothers. I've got down on here. I could see them maybe giving us. I don't know if they would give us another ARMS rep like on the character slot, because obviously that game only sold maybe a couple million. They put in Min Min. But I feel like they could maybe make some other characters as like alternate costumes for her, kind of like how Bowser Jr. has all the different Koopalings as alts. You got Morton and Ludwig and Lemmy and Wendy and Roy and all of them. So I think, maybe not all of them would work. Like Twin Tail would be kind of hard because like where she attacks like with her hair. But, I think like, Spring Man and like Ribbon Girl, they kind of have more or less the same body type as Min Min. So I think it would be fairly easy to, just rig that same animation to their models, and it'd have kind of more or less the same hitbox and everything. So yeah, I could see some of those other characters get added as alts. And then I got down on here. I feel like now might be the time, Nintendo could tap a little bit more into their obscure characters, and they always kind of like to have one of those weird picks in Smash Brothers, like the Duck Hunt Dog and stuff like that. We know they were a scrapped character, but maybe now would be the time that they bring back the chorus kids from Rhythm Heaven that were leaked to, I guess, have at one time been in development for Smash Brothers for Wii U and 3DS, but were cut probably in part due to technical limitations, because like they obviously had to cut the Ice Climbers, which were a 2-in-1 duo, whereas the Chorus Kids are a 3-in-1. But now might be the time to bring them back, and also Chibi Robo. I'm kind of surprised that Chibi Robo has not gotten into Smash yet, and obviously Chibi Robo has not had the greatest track record of games, I guess you could say. The originals on GameCube are very beloved, and then after that they kind of took a nosedive. There were some really weird ones on like the 3DS and stuff. But I don't know. I think it would be really cool to see Chibi Robo get in there. I think there's some fun stuff they could do with him having to like recharge and things, and He could, they could kind of maybe borrow from Ziplash in terms of his move set, being able to, attack with his cord and use it as like a grapple to recover back onto the stage or to like grab people from a distance. So yeah, Chibi Robo, I think that would be a really cool character to get into Smash. So that's more or less. Well, never mind. Actually, we do have at least one more first party character, Pauline. From the Mario series, she made her debut back in the original Donkey Kong. She was the OG damsel in distress before Princess Peach was invented, and yeah, she kind of fell out of relevancy in the Mario franchise for a very long time. With the exception of like the Mario versus Donkey Kong games, which were kind of these more niche spin-offs. But yeah, ever since Mario Odyssey, she's kind of been back in the limelight again as a main Mario character in a lot of ways, which has been pretty cool to see. She's the mayor of New Donk City, and since then she's gone on to appear in the latest Mario Party. She was in Super Mario Party Jamboree, but she was also in Mario Tennis Aces, and she was added in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as part of the Booster Course Pass as a downloadable character. She's a character I would have in the past objected to her getting in Smash Brothers, because I used to be of the opinion of like, well, if a character is going to get in, then they need to, be a fighter. They have to fight in whatever respective game. Like where it's like, well, you look at Peach and it's like, well, yeah, she's often a damsel in distress, but in Mario 2 she could hold her own, and then Super Princess Peach was a action game in which you play as her and you can fight with an umbrella and stuff. But I was kind of like when they put in like Rosalina, I was like, oh, Rosalina's not really a fighter. She's kind of a guardian of the galaxy sort of figure. But I'm over that. Whatever. they can put Pauline in there. It's fine. She can attack with a microphone and whatever. That's kind of a weird standard that I used to have. That's like, what does it matter? But she's important enough to the Mario franchise, important enough to the legacy since its inception with the original Donkey Kong, that, yeah, I think she deserves to get in. And I would honestly be kind of shocked if she's not in the next Smash Brothers game. Let me look and see here. I do believe that's all the first parties that I think I'm predicting will come in the base game. I think there will be a few third parties, but not a lot. Because typically that kind of comes with the DLC. Smash Brothers Brawl only had 2 third parties. It was Sonic and Snake, and then Smash Brothers for Wii U and 3DS only had, I think, was it just Mega Man? Was he the only third party character at launch? Because his DLC, of course, they introduced Ryu from Street Fighter and Cloud from Final Fantasy and all this other stuff. But at launch, I feel like it might have just been no. It was Pac-Man also. It was Mega Man and Pac-Man, but I think those were like the only 2. And then with Smash Ultimate, you had the 2 Castlevania reps being Simon and Richter Belmont, and then you also had Ken, which he was from Street Fighter, which was already represented in the series, so it wasn't as big of a deal. But he was another third-party Street Fighter rep. So I think we'll probably get something similar with the next Smash Brothers game, where we'll get at least one new third-party character from a franchise that's not been represented before in Smash, and then maybe a couple other third parties, but characters from ones that are already represented in Smash, if that makes sense. So specifically, I've got Rayman on here. Rayman he was like my number 2 character on my list of characters that I want to get into Smash, but I am predicting it because I think he is the most likely next franchise to get represented in Smash. There was a strong base advocating for him. Obviously, you had all those like Smash fake leaks with like Artsy Omni and Smashified back in the day, but he's a heavily requested fighter. Ubisoft and Nintendo have a pretty strong relationship. They did the Mario and Rabbids games. The most recent one got a Rayman DLC, and we know because they've told us that Ubisoft is wanting to expand the Rayman IP, and they're in talks with the original Rayman creator, Michel Ancel, I believe is his name, to do something new with the brand. We don't know if that's going to be, if they're going to like do a remake or a remaster, maybe the first three games, maybe just one of the games, and if they're working on a brand new Rayman game, like an official Rayman 4, is like a new 3D one, maybe a new 2D one to follow Rayman Legends. I don't know, but I'm very excited about the prospect of Rayman being back in the limelight. And what better way? Because again, I said at the start of this, Smash Brothers' biggest asset is marketability. And so if Ubisoft wants Rayman to do better than it's ever done before, putting him in Smash is a really good opportunity to do that. So yeah, Rayman I think is the most likely third-party character from a new franchise. But similar to how we got Ken added to, he was in the base game of Smash Ultimate. I think we might get a third Street Fighter rep. I think we could get Chun-Li. I've never really been a big Street Fighter person myself, but that doesn't change the fact that I know who Chun-Li is. So Chun-Li, she's iconic. She's probably one of the most prolific female characters in gaming. I would argue she's probably more recognizable than Ken, if I'm being honest. But yeah, so I could see her being added in the base game. I could also see us getting another Sonic rep in the base game, whether that's Tails or Shadow, maybe both. I don't know. I'm not necessarily expecting both, but they could put both of those characters in there. I don't necessarily see Dr. Eggman. I know he's kind of been a pretty requested character, but I think either Tails or Shadow. Shadow might be the most likely. He could be kind of like what Isabelle is to the Animal Crossing villager, where it's kind of like half Echo but half its own character, kind of like Dr. Mario. So yeah, I think we could get one, if not two, new Sonic reps at launch. And then I kind of also put on here, but that's probably pie in the sky, Miss Pac-Man as an echo for Pac-Man, but that's probably not going to happen. But then going into DLC, that's where I think things are going to get really interesting, because people say like, well, where do we even go from here? We've got they've put in like all these highly requested characters. Like, what's even left? There's a lot left, buddy boy. And we might try to rapid fire through some of these. But I think probably the first DLC character they announce, because with the previous game, Smash Ultimate, at the Game Awards, they kind of came out swinging with Joker from Persona. It's like, okay, Nintendo means business. That's a very high profile. Yeah, I'm not a Persona guy myself. But I can understand that like that was a big deal, to get Joker from Persona 5 in there. I think they're going to up the ante this time. And I think the first DLC character that we get that's going to make people want to, buy the pass day one if they do it as like another fighter pass sort of thing. I think it'll be Master Chief. Nintendo's just really, really buddy with Microsoft right now. I think Microsoft and Phil Spencer have even expressed interest in it. They let Nintendo have the rights, to put Banjo and Kazooie in Smash Brothers, and both the Banjo Kazooie games on N64 are on Switch Online. So yeah, I don't think that Microsoft would be opposed to it. I think that's something that they probably really want to happen. I think they really want to infiltrate the Nintendo ecosystem and get more eyes on Halo and their other properties. So I think Master Chief is going to be the first DLC character. That's my bold prediction. And I think the rest of the DLC picks are likewise going to be pretty crazy. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. I think my prediction here is that another of the DLC characters will be a Fortnite rep. I guess from my understanding, Jonesy, I guess, is kind of the face of Fortnite, or he's like the most prolific one, so maybe him, or maybe it could be like we're different skins or different characters, like male and female. I don't know. Yeah, I think I could see Fortnite getting some DLC similar to how we got Steve from Minecraft. If you want to put something in Smash Brothers that's going to break the internet, like the Minecraft announcement, it's going to be Fortnite. So I think that would be a character maybe in the first wave of DLC. I've also got on here Tracer from Overwatch. I'm not really an Overwatch person, but Tracer, kind of like with Chun Li, very prolific female character. Um, Overwatch is obviously a pretty huge thing, and that would be the first Activision representative to get into Smash Brothers, unless they do Crash first, which I wouldn't be mad about. But yeah, it's a huge property, and she's a very recognizable character. So I just think it makes a lot of sense. I also have on here. I'm kind of skipping over a couple of these because I'm looking at them now, and I'm kind of like, eh. But rounding out the first wave, or like the first Fighters Pass, I could see them ending it with my boy Crash Bandicoot. You start with an Xbox rep with Master Chief. You end it off with a PlayStation rep that technically now belongs to Xbox with Crash Bandicoot. And I think that would be pretty sick. But some other ones, I might actually bump one or two of these up into the first wave of DLC because a couple of these I'm looking at, I'm like, I don't know about that. But Gino, I think Gino, Nintendo knows. They've known for like the last two Smash Brothers games at least because they keep making him a darn Mii costume, not even a deluxe Mii costume. But since then, Gino's more relevant now than ever because they remastered, Super Mario RPG. So Nintendo's working collaboratively with Square Enix again. They're very close. Gino is not necessarily a character that I'm dying to see in Smash Brothers, but I know a lot of people want it. So I think Gino could potentially be a DLC character. I did have Shantae on this list, but looking back at it, I'm like, I don't know. I think Shantae could come to the game. Would they pick her over Shovel Knight? I don't know because I didn't put him on this list. I made this list some time ago, but yeah, I'm looking at it. Like I said, I think Shantae deserves it more, but I feel like there's probably more demand for Shovel Knight. Maybe some of that's cooled down. I feel like Shovel Knight's kind of been in everything now. Maybe people are starting to feel some Shovel Knight fatigue, and maybe they're like, yeah, okay, I've had enough Shovel Knight. But you know, so I don't know. I think one of them could get in as like the first indie rep. Um, I've got on here like they could even see it makes it hard because like some of the characters they've done as deluxe costumes. We talked about Cuphead, but then also there's Sans where they got those deluxe costumes. I feel like that would make it a little less exciting if they got in the game. It's like, oh, did you hear they're adding Sans to the new Smash Bros? Like, well, I thought he was in the last one. Like, well, yeah, kind of, but now he has a move set. Like, I don't know if it would have the same impact really. So that made it kind of hard to evaluate those. But I put Doctor Eggman as a DLC character. Because again, I just for whatever reason I don't see him being in the base game, but I think someone who's more of a clone or an echo to Sonic, like Tails or Shadow, I think has a better chance. Um, I put Paper Mario down here on the DLC list. That could theoretically be in the base game, but I don't know because again, it's another first party character. I put Spyro on here. That might be pie in the sky. I feel like Crash has a decent chance. Whether or not they would also put Spyro, I'm a little bit more iffy on. Especially considering Spyro, I don't think ever did super well in Japan because they like butchered it when they localized it in Japanese. They did this weird thing where it had like an isometric, like top down camera angle, and they made the speed like way slower, where Spyro charges at like half speed to where it's like borderline unplayable. So I don't know if the Japanese audience really cares about Spyro, unfortunately. But I've got on here, and this is one maybe not. I don't know. I think some people have said that this game or this series, I guess, is maybe like banned in Japan due to like the graphic violence and gore and stuff. But I've got a character from Mortal Kombat. There's I think from my understanding, I don't know a whole lot about Mortal Kombat, but from my understanding, I think the two faces of it are Scorpion, and then there's another one. I think it's called like Freezer or something like that, or I might be butchering the name. Who I guess they have more like maybe ice powers. That might could be more interesting. I don't know. But I could see one of those characters getting in. Their final smash could be like a fatality, but some way they would have to do it in a way where there's no gore. I feel like it could probably be done. Think about like Sephiroth's reveal trailer in Smash, where it looks like he impales Mario with his sword, but not really. So I feel like there's ways they might could work around it. But I don't know. And then I've also got on here, the Doom guy. Here's a character that's kind of an interesting one. Doom guy, that's another one where it's like Microsoft owns him now, so all Nintendo has to do is say, "Hey, Microsoft," and probably before they can finish the sentence, Nintendo will be like, "Yes." So I think the ball's in Nintendo's court, really, if they want to get all those, now Microsoft IPs in Smash Brothers, which they might not want to. I don't know, especially if they're only going to have so many DLC characters. What I think they should do, not only with Smash Brothers, but with Mario Kart and a lot of their other franchises, I want to see continuous updates with new content, new characters, and stuff throughout the whole lifespan of the Switch 2. Not just like, we'll support it for a year or two, and then we'll just drop it, and then we'll make a new one 5 years later. Like, no, like, keep it more like a live service game. I don't want it to have like microtransactions and crap and be like a free to play thing, but like you buy the game for $60 and then we're just going to keep coming out with new content every few months that you can buy if you want it. Like that's what I want to see. Because Smash, they could have supported that game this whole time since Sora come out. We could have been on like, the fourth Fighter's Pass or something by now, fifth Fighter's Pass, and people would still be buying it. They'd be eating it up like candy. So I've got some more characters on here. This is one that I could see being in the base game, actually. I don't know why I really even have it listed as DLC. I think Kamek from Mario. That might be kind of a surprise one where people be like, Kamek? Why Kamek? But I'm just thinking about the Mario movie and just how prevalent that Kamek is as kind of Bowser's right-hand man. He's kind of the equivalent of like what Agent Stone is to Dr. Eggman in the Sonic movies. He's kind of a villain's lackey who's also kind of a comic relief who kind of gets abused by his superior. But Kamek is a pretty important character in the Mario franchise. He's kind of Yoshi's antagonist in the way that Bowser is to Mario, or King Boo is to Luigi, or now Queen Grape and the Sour Bunch are to Peach, or the bird from Captain Toad is to Captain Toad. Or Wario, Captain Syrup to Wario. So I don't know. I could see him because he's like kind of the main antagonist in all the Yoshi games, and I feel like he's probably going to have a bigger role to play in the Mario movie sequel. We don't know yet, but they kind of end the first movie with that post-credits teaser that it's going to be focused on Yoshi, and maybe they'll go into an origin story about maybe like Mario and Luigi as babies like wandered into the Mushroom Kingdom, but they don't remember it, and the Yoshis had to bring him back home to Brooklyn and save him from Kamek or something. I could see that being the plot of the next movie. So I feel like, and also he's in Mario Kart now. I feel like we might be in I feel like kind of similar to like Pauline. I think Kamek is really going to be more important than ever moving forward for the Mario franchise. So I think Kamek I think he'd be an interesting fighter. He could use his broom as a recovery move. He could cast magic spells from a distance and stuff. I think there's some cool stuff he could do with Kamek. I don't know why I really had him listed as the DLC. I think he would be more of a base game character. I also had Knuckles on here. That's a lot of Sonic representation, so I don't know about that. Then I had Tetra on here. Really, I probably should have put, as much as I'd love to see Tetra, I'm not dying for this Zelda character, but I think the most logical would probably be Impa, because Impa's been in more Zelda games than pretty much any other character that's not like, Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf. She's kind of like the fourth. She's like probably the most closest link to the Triforce that doesn't wield it, Or again, they could do Skull Kid, because Skull Kid was a very heavily requested character. But I don't know. I feel like Nintendo would want somebody who's a little bit more all encompassing to the Zelda franchise versus like they only really got their time to shine in one game, which is why I kind of am iffy on Girahim ever getting in or Midna. And Tetra, I think, fares a little bit better because she's in a few different, they made multiple Toon Link games. So, she was in, Phantom Hourglass, and I think was she in Spirit Tracks? Maybe not. I never actually played that game. Then I've got here some deluxe me costumes written down, and these are kind of fun. This one's probably going to raise some eyebrows. People are going to be like, "No, God, please, no." Freddy Fazbear is one I put down. I think we've got to a point where Nintendo just doesn't care. It's like, yeah, it's memey, but it's popular. Five Nights at Freddy, you can't deny that it's a very popular series. They got Minecraft in Smash Brothers. They put a Sans me costume in Smash Brothers. So even if it's kind of a meme, even if it might feel like kind of a joke, they got the freaking Vault Boy from Fallout. I always want to call it Fallout Boy, but that's a band. I've also got Zangief from Street Fighter. They could also do what's an M Bison, like the Russian guy. I could see that being a me costume. I put Knights, like the protagonist from like that Knights into Dreams game, the Sega thing. I think that would be a fun me costume. Bomberman I've got as a deluxe me costume. They could maybe even be a playable character. I don't foresee that, but they were an assist trophy in the last game, so I think that would make sense. Give them a deluxe me costume at the very least would be cool. I've also got Dig Dug from Namco, their arcade games. I think it would be kind of fun to have some arcade themed deluxe me costumes. You could do Dig Dug, but then also like you could do like Mappy. I don't know who holds the rights, but like Frogger or Cubert, I think that could be really cool. The Prince from Katamari Damacy, and then also II from Monkey Ball. I talked about how I'd like to see them in the game, but I don't know if Sakurai could come up with a moveset. Deluxe me costume. There you go. And I've got down Mr. Rossetti just as another Animal Crossing thing, because again, Animal Crossing is massive, so I imagine that we'll have even more Animal Crossing representation in the new game. And then I also put Eric from Dragon Quest, although that actually raises a good point. I think kind of like what I said about Min from ARMS, having like the other characters as palette swaps. We already have that with Dragon Quest, where you've got like Erdrick and I think a couple others. Maybe we could get like some more Dragon Quest heroes. I guess you couldn't do like the one from Dragon Quest 7, because that one's a kid, so it's just a different body type, so you can't rig that model to the same anime. Like the hitbox would be all weird. It would have to be its own separate character. But I don't know. Maybe they can figure out a way to work in some of the other Dragon Quest protagonists. I don't know. But that was something that I had, or that I wanted to kind of touch on. But yeah, that's pretty much it for all of the possible characters that I think that they can include. I'm looking over this to make sure that I'm not missing anybody. I think that pretty much hit on everybody. Oh, how do I not have them on this list? I think this is a fairly safe bet for a DLC character. I was talking earlier about prolific women in video games. We talked about Chun-Li. We talked about, to a lesser extent, Shantae. We talked about Pauline. We talked about Miss Pac-Man. She's like the OG female character. Tracer from Overwatch. Arguably the most iconic female character, I would say probably Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. I could see her getting into Smash Brothers. Honestly, I think she is pretty likely. That's my prediction. I'm going to go out on a limb. Kind of like Crash, she would be another. And also like Cloud and Snake. Really, she would be another PlayStation 1 rep. Man, if they got her in there and Crash, along with already having Cloud and Snake, like. They just got the entire PlayStation 1 lineup in one game. That'd be freaking nuts. than Spyro. But I could see her. I could see her maybe happening. Um, and I think she could have a cool stage where like maybe it's like on like the Great Wall of China or something, or maybe it's a traveling stage where it's like you're in a the Great Pyramids, and then you're on the Great Wall of China, and then you're like in Venice or something. I'm not really a big Tomb Raider person myself. I have a friend who's like obsessed with it. She loves it. But even if I'm not the biggest fan of the franchise, mostly due to those tank controls, and I know they kind of modernized them in the remake, but it still feels very clunky to me, and I just got really frustrated trying to play through those games. Wanted to rage quit multiple times. Um, but I can't deny that Lara Croft is a very iconic character. Even though I don't like the series, I have a figurine of her on that top shelf back there. I don't know if you can see it, just because she's so iconic. So I think she would make a great fit. She's got her dual wielding pistols and stuff, and they've already got Joker using a gun, and Bayonetta's got those like feet guns. That's kind of weird. So throw her in there. I can't believe I forgot her, but she I think is actually possibly one of the more likely DLC characters. And then let's see. I feel like there was somebody else that I wanted to shout out when I was like, oh yeah, Laura. There was another one where I was like, oh yeah, this character. But I don't know. Let me look at this. Let me look back at this list again. We got I don't know. I'll probably think about it after I finish the recording, and then it's going to kill me. I'm just like, oh, God, how could I forget to mention so-and-so from the incredibly popular game whatchamacallit. But yeah, that's my list, more or less. So I gave you my most wanted characters, and then my predictions for characters that could get added. And, again, I'm probably going to do a separate video talking about Amiibo. But based on patents, the Switch 2 will be, compatible with NFC chip technology. So Toys to Life evidently ain't dead yet. Everybody keeps thinking that, Amiibo are dying, but presumably we get a new Smash game with new characters. That's a new Amiibo. So we'll be getting, if all these characters that I'm predicting get put in the game, we get a freaking Chun-Li amiibo and a Lara Croft amiibo, Crash Bandicoot amiibo, Rayman amiibo, all these other characters. That would be pretty sick. Bomberman amiibo, Shantae amiibo. I'm here for it. But anyway, is there anything else that I want to talk about that's not character specific? Touched on a lot of the different modes and stuff. Maybe a revamped stage builder, the one that they had in Smash Ultimate was the best one yet, but it's still got some problems. If you've got too much going on, there can be some pretty significant slowdowns. Hopefully, with the extra horsepower of the Switch 2, that won't be a problem anymore. And then I don't know. I'm trying to think in terms of what else they could add in terms of music. They've already, I think, got over 1,000 pieces of music or something crazy like that in the game. But I don't know. They might could do like a Mario Wonder stage, Metroid Dread stage. Actually, that'd be a really cool stage, Metroid Dread, where you're in like one of the Emmy rooms and you're having to like hide from the Emmy and like not make noise. That could be like really cool. And then if one gets you, it's like you have like that small window, but 99% likely it's going to be like an instant death. That could be really cool. But I'm trying to think just like what other games have come out since Smash Ultimate. They could do an Animal Crossing New Horizons stage, but I don't know how different that would be from the 2 Animal Crossing stages we already have in Smash. What else? What else could they do? I guess if they put Geno in, then they could do like a Forest Maze stage or something from Mario RPG. That could be cool. Yeah, as far as music goes, I don't think we've ever actually got the Forest Maze song in there. Which is kind of crazy. So you put that in there. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've probably rambled for long enough. I was like, I could touch on assist trophies, but like, I don't know. I don't know who'd be a good assist trophy. It's hard. Like, you never really want to say an assist trophy because then it's like, well, then that means they can't be a character. So yeah, we won't dive into all that. I guess the last thing I'll say, just Hopefully the online's better. According to rumors, Switch I guess is going to have Wi-Fi 6 instead of 5 or something, which apparently is a lot better. I don't fully know what all that means, but here's hoping. So yeah, with that said, guys, I think that's going to be a wrap on this video. So thank you all so very much for watching, for listening to me ramble. And I'll catch you guys on the next episode. If you enjoyed this, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I know it's been like a few weeks at this point since I've done a podcast episode because I have been busy with a bunch of other stuff. I started this online class. It's a 6-week course, so it's like halfway over at this point, and then that'll free me up some. And then I've been kind of doing like some other stuff. I went to this like casting call for this like indie movie that's being shot locally, and then like I went to a Comic-Con the other weekend. There's been a lot of stuff going on, but I'm gonna try to find more time to do more of these, and yeah, so please consider subscribing to the channel if you aren't already. I'd greatly appreciate it for more podcast discussion-y type videos like this, for playthroughs of various games, for the occasional discussion of animated movies and TV shows, and some live reactions. I'll be doing I'll record my reaction to the Nintendo Switch 2 April 2nd reveal. So, yeah, I hope you will stick around. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.